Check 1 2 check. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. The Coffee and Biscotti Show. I'm your host, Crew Mel Bellissimo. Today is Friday, May 6th, just past 12 o'clock Eastern Daylight Savings Time. And I hope that wherever you are in the world, you are doing well. Because today's show is something of a new format for me. I wanted to dedicate today's show to a friend of mine, Mr. Joseph Fernicola, and of course, dedicated to Mental Health Awareness Week or Mental Health Awareness Month. So wherever you are, thank you for joining us. Lovely to have Poutine Nation in the house. Josh, are you hanging out in an airport by chance? And if you are, thank you, because your dedication is amazing. You're a dedicated man, and I am honored to have you here with us. Also, sending a special shout out to Dev Chef, my boy Scott. Thank you so much, brother, for being here. And of course, the birthday girl, Franny. Hello, sweetheart. Happy birthday to you. From all of us here, what an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining us on your birthday. All of us here at the Coffee and Biscotti Show, we love you, Franny. Thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing day today. Hello to my lifesaver, Sandra Mio. Sandra, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. So great to have everyone. I'm super grateful that you've all logged on so quick. So today's show is brought to you by Decorous Life, a coaching company that deals specifically with leaders and business people who are looking to be better in all aspects of their life. Check out decoruslife.com. And also brought to you by Team Wolfpack. If you are a heart-centered business leader, then please take a look at Team Wolfpack. Maybe, Josh, if you have an opportunity, you can post both websites in the chat so that all of us can see and share. My friends, I thought long and hard about how I was going to introduce today. In fact, as you can see here, I've got some sage burning just to clear the air and bring this positive energy to a topic that is becoming, I don't know, becoming something of a thing where everybody talks about it, but I don't know whether or not people really understand the importance of mental health. So I went and I did something. So mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of our life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. The definition of it is a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being. My friends, I decided to do this show because over the course of 2 weeks, I've experienced something myself for the first time. And I'll explain it to you like this. If you're close to me, then you already know this. But for those of you that are not so close to me, I will share. Over the course of the last 18 months, I have lost a marriage, my job, 2 days after that. Months later, my father, and 2 weeks ago, a childhood friend. All while trying to build a business, an online coaching business, in the midst of my first ever global pandemic that I've lived through. On top of it, having challenges with family, my mother, who's struggling a lot with depression now because she is alone in a retirement home without her husband of 65 years. Friends who are struggling, Stories I hear every day of people that are struggling. And so I felt that today was important to share and dedicate some time here on the Coffee and Biscotti show to mental health. What's happened for me over the last couple of weeks is I felt emotionally tapped out, emotionally drained. And I've never felt like that before. I never felt so emotionally drained. That to the point where I just maybe I became short with some people, maybe I became short even with my son. I'm living in a home, of course, with my ex-wife and waiting for all the, you know, legalities to come into place. So I drove back from Toronto after going to my friend's funeral last Wednesday, and I just the waterworks started. I let it all out. I must have cried for about an hour while Leo was asleep in the back seat. And I came home, of course, thinking that I'm coming home to a place that I don't really want to be, but have to be here till everything is settled. And I thought a lot. I thought a lot about mental health. I thought a lot about what someone goes through. What did my friend Joe go through that made him decide that this was the only way? How does one get to a point to develop the courage to be able to do or take their own life? I'm by far a psychologist or a psychiatrist. But what I know is that the answer to it lies in self love. And we all do different things for self love. What keeps me going is that I move my body. I went for a bike, sort of a stationary bike ride for an hour. I did 15 miles on the bike. And then the following evening, I did something that I hadn't done in 20 years that I loved as a child. And I got invited to play soccer. And I can't tell you guys, I felt this incredible amount of joy going to play. I suffered the next day. Holy smokes, the body was sore. But wherever you are, in terms of if there's a scale, the mental health scale, wherever you are in your life, I still believe that there's some basics. Now, we're going to have some people join us throughout the show sharing their stories or sharing stories of friends and families of people who they know that they've experienced, that they've had and shared the experience of being with someone who suffered with mental health. This is a serious topic, and that's why I'm doing this, because it needs to be front and center in terms of our attention in our society. Because you throw in a global pandemic, and all of a sudden, people are talking about losing family members, losing their jobs, losing relationships. I think I know about a dozen people who have separated or divorced in the last 2 years. This is a serious issue, and therefore it needs serious people to talk about this serious thing in an open, with an open heart and no judgment. And so what I wanted to do today is create a space where people could come and share, where people could come and talk about their experiences with mental health. Again, I'm far from a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but what I do know is that it's about getting down to basics. And the basics for me are, if you subscribe to the philosophy that you are a three-part being, that you are a body, that you are a mind, and that you are a spirit, then the reality is that we need to exercise all three of those parts. So I challenge you to choose something that exercises all 3 points. What are you doing for your body? Are you doing some kind of, or have some kind of workout regime? Do you go for walks? Do you connect with nature? For your mind, are you reading some sort of self-help book? Are you reading or journaling, so that the brain doesn't become the storage unit, but it becomes the central processing unit? So that this allows me to dump my emotions onto a piece of paper so I don't have to hold it in here. You see, that was how it was described to me. There's not This is not the how big the hard drive is. This is not what we want to store. And a classic example is Albert Einstein never knew his address. He always wrote it on a piece of paper because he said, I don't need to store that. I can just quickly look at the paper. I don't need to have it stored, because what this is for is a central processing unit, a CPU. Then, of course, there's the spirit. And of course, for spirit, there's a lot of things, my friends. Everybody thinks, maybe some people think, that you have to be the Buddha and you have to sit with your mudras and you have to sit in silence, for the next 24 hours so that you can feel something. That's not the truth. When you talk about your spirit, I talk about it from several angles. I talk about it from the angle of meditation. But you heard, maybe we're going to have our friend Richard Atkinson come on later on, who said there's all kinds of meditation, even something called a laughing meditation, which he was involved in. There's walking meditation, Vipassana meditation. I mean, there's all kinds. So adopting some sort of meditation regime, meditation space for you to do on a daily basis, even if it was 5 minutes. The other angle is to talk about helping others. Now, I know that when we talk about mental health, it's really difficult if you're having a tough time yourself, if your needs are not being met, to go out and help somebody. But I can't tell you what it does for the spirit. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to be able to talk about, or to rather help somebody and see the direct effects that it has on you. Many years ago, Francesco Biscotti, my choice theory mentor, took me on the soft street patrol of delivering lunches to the homeless. And I think that most people were like, holy smokes, like, I can't believe how many homeless people there are in Toronto. We see commercials of other countries where kids are starving, and we don't even have to leave our own backyard. When he walked inside the Salvation Army gateway and the little guy on the microphone, okay, guys, there's lunch outside. I can't tell you. Herds of people came running from the back to get a lunch. And most importantly, the heart center, the heart chakra opened up for these people. And how wonderful it felt to be able to do something like that. The third angle is talking about creative expression. How do you creatively express yourself? Are you a writer? Are you a sculptor? Are you a painter? Are you a podcaster? What is it that you do to self-express? How are you showing the world and sharing with the world your voice and your creative expression? My friends, this is my very short introduction to understanding of some of the ways that we can help with mental health. I call them going back to the basics. I call them that if you're feeling shit, go for a walk. Move the body. Let the brain release the endorphins. And watch what happens when you come back and you sit down. How the energy has shifted. So, for whatever it's worth, I hope that there's something in that resonates with you, that maybe sings to your heart. Devshev, you wrote, no judgment, creating space for each other and listening with empathy and compassion are what we're all capable of giving each other. Absolutely, Scott. Thank you for sharing that. That's important. Um, so I want to bring somebody on who was a guest on the show before. She is an amazing woman who is one of only 200 in the world who's a level two instructor of the Wim Hof method, and she's an incredible shining light. And she was great, very gracious in sharing some of her time today. And as I said, there's going to be people coming in and out. They won't be staying for the full show, but they'll come in, share some time with us, and then they will sort of leave and continue on with their day. If you are in the audience and you have something to share in the chat, please, if you're hearing this and you could share it with somebody live, go give it to them, and I will send you the link so that they can come on. But first, let's bring on Marie Bodine.
Hi, Mel.
Hi, Marie. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Happy Friday. I was very thank you for having me here today with you. A lot of people are going through a stressful time and they hide it and they don't share and they don't talk. So I want to applaud you firstly for sharing this space for people to come and to listen even to the replays so that they can just really just absorb maybe other people's information, and if they have anything that resonates they can take one very small action step towards getting the support that they might need. So I remember
Absolutely.
when we were talking, um, we have a mutual friend that suggested that I share my story, and I don't know if I mentioned it when we were talking before, but I've had I've had six colleagues, coworkers, or friends take their lives since 2003. It's a lot. It's a lot to manage. Um, Depression knows no age limit, knows no income bracket. I've had incredibly successful people choose this route, and I really have a lot of respect for people that face these emotions head on when they're willing and able to with support, because there's no really expiry date to look at this. Some people it takes them 20, 30, 40 years to get into a conversation with someone or even a group. And my personal experience was in I had a friend. She was a beautiful person inside and out. She looked like Renee Zellweger. She was gorgeous. I went to high school with her, and I didn't really spend too much time with her, but 20 years later, we ended up running into each other on the street. I didn't realize that she lived really close to where I lived, and we ended up striking up a conversation. We went to just had some coffee chats, maybe about six times, and she'd shared some things about her personal life, which were a little bit stressful. We all have stressful things, and so I got an email. I guess she canceled our coffee date for that week. So I just thought, I emailed her back, no problem. She said she wasn't feeling so great. She had just switched antidepressant medication. And then about 4 days later, I got an email from her boyfriend saying that she had taken her life, and he had walked into the apartment and found her. So this affects not only the family, the parents, the friends, the people that run the building. When you look at these costs of the ripple effect of what it takes to manage these events, it generally the number of statistics say is about $1 million per person for management, post management of these events. And the the most difficult part for me was I got invited to be present at the funeral, but I didn't have a car, and it was like it was far. It was still in town, but I called up a friend. I had a circle of friends at the time, and I still do, and this is going to come into the conversation later. Having a personal circle of friends that when you call, one person will be there for you day or night when they get the call. So I made a call and I said to my friend, I said, I need a ride now to the funeral. Will you take me? And he said, yes. And he sat with me the whole time. And when I went there, of course, I was completely shocked and beside myself. This was completely out of nowhere. It seems like the medication had actually created a chemical imbalance, which had, I guess, resulted in this event. So, um, I met the grandmother, I didn't know anyone, and she met me and she said, "Oh, you're Marie. You're the girl that she talked about." I'm like, I don't know what you're talking I don't know what she's talking about." Like, we only hung out about 6 times, like, we just chatted, and so she pulled me around the entire room, and every single family member, the grandmother said, "This is Marie, this is the girl," and they're like, "Oh, yeah, she talked about you, they started asking me questions. This must have happened 7 times, and I just thought, "This is really weird." I had no idea that I had such an impact on this person, and it took me 2 or 3 years to really process, that, event to the point where I felt like I wanted to give back and volunteer for the survivor support program. We were sitting in front of people, counseling them through violent suicide and death, and it was a it's a very powerful process. But what happened after the funeral was that I had another friend that, went to jail for 18 years because he was, chemically drugging and assaulting women for 15 or 20 years, so I was stressed. Like, who
Oh
are my
shit.
friends? What do I do? Like, what's up? What's down? Like, it was a lot. And I realized at that point, I had to make a conscious decision to not be someone's bad day. Like, I didn't wanna be the person that was the cause of someone to hurt themselves or to be so upset that they felt like that their day was a total write-off. And I thought, "I need to have this person's death mean something, and this is what I need it to mean for me. I need to catalyze into a person that will never be a person that would have something like this happen." And so it took me 18 years to cultivate the kind of behavior, personality, and thought processes that would never be, even for strangers, subway, shopkeepers, customer service on the phone, family member, close relationships. I don't care who it is. I'm never going to be that person that's going to wreck your day so that you go home and say that you had a shit day. And it took me 18 years to fulfill the promise so I could say 24/7, I'm that person now. I will never be someone's bad day because I need her passing to have value so that I can continue to feel like it has like it was not for a total waste.
Hmm.
And I realized that the more that we cultivated self-love and self-respect as best we can, and we try to only take these moments in chunks because these events, and I mentioned already, I had 5 more happen over the years and a few more attempts too, or even talking people off the ledge, so to speak, like literally calling the police, calling the paramedics, sending them to the hospital. There's a lot going on, and I think we need to be a lot more. We need to assume that there's something going on in everyone's life to be able to just give them some space. Yeah.
I want to just bring up someone wrote in the chat, Marie, a beautiful woman who was on the show last week, Tanya Manzone, who is an incredible woman. Writes, "The smallest smile, a compliment, a warm exchange can have profound effects."
Yeah. Yeah. I love that comment. When I was really getting really frustrated with lockdown, I, started posting every day for about 21 weeks. I committed one random act of kindness. I wrote love letters to and just gave them to people, like, that was my response for getting frustrated, and it really helped me release, like you said, we have to get this energy out of our body. A lot of people are exercising less, changing their diet, and that really, tends to downregulate the system. What I forgot too, um, is that breath practices like the Wim Hof method, wimhofmethod.com, and cold showers, have helped thousands and thousands of people through not just moments like these, but avoiding, or managing depression and anxiety, and also finding a back to body balance. So I recommend box breathing for any age group, any health condition, because that's a beautiful way to recalibrate the heart and the brain through vagus nerve to just blow off some of that stress and get rebalanced and get back to self. But pushing away the feelings, everyone, they'll wait for you. So be gentle, call a friend, call a crisis center. There's people there that are very skilled that can listen, and don't keep it bottled up because the biggest two reasons why people tend to take their lives is they feel trapped and they feel alone. and I don't want anyone to feel those feelings. They're very, very difficult feelings to process, and certainly on your own, it's very difficult to move through those. So talk to someone you trust. Get out in nature, get the sun on your face. I know that those things are small and they don't always solve the problems that we think that we have, but these are all temporary. We all go through these thoughts like, "Wow, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know." And um, resiliency is a skill that you can cultivate and develop just like a muscle, and it takes conscious practice. So yeah, anyone out there, just tell someone that you're not feeling well, and there are people out there that are willing and have the time to help and support you.
Marie, will you please share with sort of the audience a little bit about sort of where they can reach you because you are an instructor of this Wim Hof method. Where can people get a hold of you?
Right, thank you. So you can find me on Instagram. Marie.Bodine is my Instagram handle. If you go head into my bio on Linktree, I have right now, actually, I'm doing an 8-week resilience course for women. So we're really covering sleep, movement, the electromagnetic field. We're addressing worry, we're addressing stress and all those things. If I didn't mention all that, so people can start to learn the latest science and the newest things that are out there, because science changes every 6 months. And um, we just need to have a platform where we can get together and learn some new skills. And I'm happy to have a conversation with people. Drop me messages all the time in my DMs and ask me questions about the illnesses or the situations that they're having in relation to breathing in cold water. So I'm more than happy to jump on a call, or if I'll have a anyway. My website's going to be coming up soon, and I'm here to support, but also give people confidence that they can also take one step today to just to love themselves a little bit more and ask for help if they need some guidance.
Marie, I have to say that it's been a little while since we chatted, but boy, do I ever miss your sunshine. I love it. I love your ray of sunshine. Thank you so much for joining me. I know you got to go at 12:30, but thank you. I hope that somebody will listen to this and listen to your words, um, and reach out to somebody. Don't ever do this alone.
Yeah, you're not alone. We're all here, and we're all here to help and support you because you matter. Everyone matters here on the planet.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mel.
Marie, all the best. My love to you.
Yeah, bye now.
Bye bye. So I'm going to bring on our next guest, who's waiting backstage. He's a dear friend of mine, and he's also my crypto mentor. And he has a very interesting story himself about mental health. And I wanted to bring him on because he's got a very powerful story to share. He's been on the Coffee and Biscotti show today, before, but today he's coming on specifically to talk about um, his experience with mental health. And so, without further ado, my friend, Mr. Lance Janik.
Hey, everybody. My name is Lance, and I'm a military veteran. As well, I like to call myself now a truth speaker. So, um, I'll start off with kind of the story of my life. So, if we go into early childhood, I grew up in like a very broken home and a broken family with physical and mental abuse. And I was, at the time, I didn't speak about it until my later years, but I was sexually abused as well. And then I went off and tried to run away from life, and I went off to the military, and unfortunately that kind of added to the story more, and I got injured while I was in, and I had to kind of relearn life again. I had a really bad injury that sort of made me have to learn to walk again. I mean, I've got 16 inches of scars below both my knees, and it just mentally broke me. I came back home, and I didn't really know what I was going to do anymore, and I had kind of just I had given up on people and myself. I had no structure, no belief anymore. Like I just was wandering. Um, so for a long period of time, I would, barely make it into work, and that was about as much mental capacity as I would have. I would go into my 8 to 5 shift, and then I would run out as soon as 5 o'clock would hit, and I would go home and hide in a basement. And obviously my relationships, everything else, fell apart around me, and I hit rock bottom. Roughly when I was about 28, 29. And as Mel knows, I had my first attempt at suicide. So as a military vet, I had felt like I had lost everything, and the only thing that really kept me here was, this little dude here, not this particular pug. It was my dog, and I had went through a period where I had gained I was up to about 300 pounds and on 10 different medications that the doctors had given me, and I actually quit everything cold turkey, which is not something I would advise anyone to do because I sweat for weeks and almost killed myself. But I felt like something touched me in my sleep. I told Mel I don't know how to explain it, whether it was the creator or what we want to call it, God or something, but something touched me in my sleep, I will say. And after that, I started heading my life towards restructuring it, and I stopped punishing myself. So um, I would normally, before that period, not talk about my mental health and pretend that I was perfectly fine. And now I'm very open. I feel like it's probably the the, the healthiest thing I've done for myself is that I speak truths. I'm indigenous. Learning more about my ancestry, and a big part of that is speaking truth and being open and stuff like that. And I feel like it's probably been one of the most healing things for me. And it seems the more and more I speak truths and I'm open and honest about stuff, the more healing it is, even for my family or even the people around me. Um, and it's very hard for people to be open. So if you do have mental illness and you suffer from PTSD like me, or I've suicidal ideations on a, even now, today I feel great, but tomorrow I could. Um, you can never say that you're not gonna. I don't think you could ever say you're gonna be free from mental health issues, but you can control them. You can learn to cope with them. Um, but when you hold everything in, I do believe it's like the worst thing someone probably can do for themselves. And I do believe that I'm learning through life, and even this week, Mel, I haven't got a chance to share this story, but I had another gentleman that's also a coach for my wife's organization, and he had a conversation with me, and he had told me that he felt that my biggest strength was that I'm open and I speak my truths, and I share those, and it seems to, it helps other people, around me, um, to know that they can be vulnerable, and share, and for me, I think it's probably it's been the most freeing thing. So if you do suffer from mental illness, all I can tell you is that remember that you do have people around you that are going to listen to you, and those are the people you should focus on. Um, if you have family or friends that can't, and then you focus on the people that are going to listen to you, because you should never be discarded or devalued. We all have feelings, and we're allowed to share them, and we're allowed to be weak. Um, that is a strength. It's not a weakness. So, and even myself, like I said, I suffer, all the time. Um, and but now life's much better. As Mel knows, I've been much better with my diet. I've lost almost 180 pounds. I am in a much healthier relationship, and I've used entrepreneurship as an example, as a tool to help keep me driven. So I run 2 companies that are successful, even as a vet with mental illness. They're doing very well, but they are a strength, and it's a community for me. Um, I am very open and honest, even with my community and clients, and how I am and where I come from and what I've suffered from. And I truly believe that my clients and, my support system around me, appreciates that. But we all go through things. I think everyone has a story, you know, um, and that's pretty much it. So this man was broken, but stands on his 2 feet now, planted to the ground. And I think speaking truths is the one thing I was going to get to. Is that it's very important. and be open. It's not a weakness. Share what you're going through with the people that are going to listen to you. Hold those people dear to you. So, but make sure you have a support system around you. And as per water, like she said, it's probably one of the other things that I use the most. Like I'm probably in the shower twice a day. I love water. For some reason, it's a healing tool for me. Um, which, as you said, it's been proven that it helps a lot. Um, cold water on the face, or even I personally just love jumping into a hot shower or a hot tub, or I'm the first one in the water, last one out of it. Um, it's a very safe feeling. When you're in the water, you don't hear anything. When you're under it, and you can, you're in your own little bubble, and you can scream as loud as you want over the water if you want to. I took a jet ski out this week, and that's what I did. Is I just took the jet ski out and I screamed at the top of my lungs, to the world, and that felt very freeing too. So, another thing I would tell people is sometimes screaming somewhere where you feel safe that you can do it on top of a mountain or on the middle of the lake or under the water. Let that bad energy out, because the world will take it for you, and then you can be a little more free that day. So that's another thing that helps me. So, and I actually even popped it down with a friend by accident when I was on the jet ski. He says, "It sounds like you're having fun," and I sure as hell did have fun. So, but I really did though. There's a bunch. So yeah.
I think, Lance, what I love about this is that there's so many ways to really have some tools at your disposal. I spoke at the beginning in my introduction about, if you subscribe to the philosophy that we're a three-part being of body, mind, and spirit, then I challenge everyone to exercise all three parts because they all need to be exercised. And I love that what you've done with this, and I have to give you full marks because what you've done, Lance, is you've created a community yourself with cryptocurrency and using it as a way to connect people, all while helping people become financially independent.
We're helping a lot of indigenous communities as well. I went up to my wife's conference this week, and I'm actually going to be. I've been asked to speak to some of the communities about entrepreneurship to the youth and stuff like that. So I'm actually going to be going into a new sort of line of work where I will be teaching leadership and truth speaking and talking to youth about entrepreneurship and stuff like that. But the only way that any of these paths or adventures would have ever have happened is with me being comfortable talking about my experiences and my weaknesses out loud. Which they're at this point we say weaknesses. I call them strengths. As Joe pointed out, me being open is a strength. And I have to get, even myself right now, I said weaknesses. I should not. I should say my truths. I have to get, we all have to get more used to saying that,
Hmm.
we're human. So
And
I am
change
just human.
the verbiage around it for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I'm just human. And I suffer like any other one, but maybe in just different ways.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Super grateful, Lance. I have to applaud you for all that you're doing. If everybody doesn't know that Lance, I work with Lance's company on the mental health front, and I also am a client of Silver Fox. And so I do my crypto trading and cryptocurrency learning through Silver Fox. And I just love that I love that you have used this, Lance, as a tool to unite people together, which helps in your journey with mental health.
for sure. Well, thank you too, Mel. I appreciate everything, crew.
Thanks, brother. All the best. Please give my love to everybody at home.
I
Always
will.
a pleasure to have you, Lance. Let's catch up next week when you're around.
Sure. Everyone take it easy.
Much love, brother. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
So there you have it, my friends. Another story. And this one was a little bit more personal. Backstage, I have another woman who has been on the show before. She is, I said to her in conversation, I said, I really miss your face, is what I said. And she knew that what I meant was I miss her energy and I miss chatting with her. She's an incredible woman who, I've spent about 10 years now in the world of metaphysics, and I've received plenty of healings and readings. And if you ever want to have a reading done, that is much more than a reading, sort of like a healing and a reading combined. You need to speak to this woman. But, she's here with us today just to talk about mental health and maybe share a story or maybe talk a little bit on mental health. So, without further ado, the very beautiful Debbie Tato.
Hello, 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 and thank you. Like this was fun. I just dropped my website in your private if you want to throw it on up there
I'm going to do it right
for
now
my
as we speak.
website.
There you
So I
go.
think I did that right. I did it so quickly, but thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this open forum. I have to admit, I was getting ready. I was wrapping up a bunch of things as I told you earlier, and this was my audible for the day because this was not in the in the plan, but
In the plan,
you
yeah.
asked so nicely that I thought that I would pop right on because this is such an important issue, mental health, and I was listening to Lance a little bit. I only just the last few minutes, and it really is a space just with what I do with my clients, and I do healing work. It is more than a reading. It's healing work. And what I notice time and time again is that what happens is the energy that's outside of us stops us from having our own creative expression. And that includes expressing our pain, the pain that's on the inside. And it kind of acts like a volcano. It builds and builds and builds, and there's all kinds of pressure. And then it just blows. Right. And that's when it's all out of control. A lot of people right now, there's so many reasons why this is so important. I'm seeing so many people have such a great deal of anxiety and worry, and whether it's financial or whether it's relationship related or whether it's their own mental health. But I do want to say, I have a little bit of a different perspective than Lance. Broken. None of us are ever broken. We might have been side, like we've lost our path a little bit. We might have veered off. We might be experiencing a tremendous amount of pain. And when that happens, what's happening is we're detached from our spirit. I hate to go all woo-woo on you, but that's my wheelhouse. So it's because when we become detached from that spiritual part of us, when we have a divide. Yeah. And mostly it's a divide, so we from our spirit, but also from God, right? That we are no longer recognizing that everything is a spiritual journey, right? But we don't need fixing, although there's a lot of energy that comes at us every single day that says we need fixing. Whether it's media, whether it's, it doesn't even matter, but there's a lot of energy out there that says you're not doing this right. You need fixing. You're broken. You're whatever, this, that, or the other thing. And when we start to take that on as our truth, that's when it goes really left field. And we also worry so much about that perfection. Oh, we got to be perfect. We got to get it right. I once had a sales trainer who said, and this goes to the perfection part, I never see failure as failure, but as an opportunity to learn. This is like one of my original sales coaches. And obviously that stuck with me. That was a real estate coach like 20 years ago. And that line stuck with me because it's really true that we're broken. We're these divine beings and spiritual, and we're having this human existence. And when we fail, whose eyes are we failing in? Generally, it's someone else's.
Yeah.
Or we are our worst critic, but where did we get that from? Generally, it's, well, we want to make our dad proud or our mom proud, right? There's always an attachment to that. So I've just kind of rambled on a little bit. I didn't
Actually,
know what
it's really great, Debbie.
I,
I have to say, because that's really a powerful thing. It may be a little bit woo woo, but I mean, even in the comments, our dear friend Dev Shep writes, totally agrees with you that we are not broken, lost perhaps, but not broken.
right. And lost is disconnected from our spirit. That mind, body, spirit. And I actually, can I talk about that? Because you said, in this mind, body, spirit, and uh, um, what did you say? You said
We need to exercise all three.
we
All
need to
three.
exercise it,
Yes.
and it really all comes from the oneness of spirit. We are a spirit that has a body. It's not these three parts of us. And once we integrate them, and by the way, it's a ton of practice to do that. It's not a one-time thing. It's not a meme. It's not toxic positivity, spiritual bypassing. It's none of those things. It takes practice to recognize that we have a body, but we are not this body. This we're not these molecules and atoms in these things. And in fact, even the body is not solid. There's space in between the cells that vibrate at a certain level, right? So the mind, body, spirit is all really one, and really it's all mind. One of my teachers calls it a mind field, and I'm like, yeah, and definitely we step on things that blow us up every now and then, right? If we're walking through a minefield, but it's our mind field, and it's really so many of us aren't able to express ourselves in exactly what's inside. Part of it is, well, we don't want to spill our guts, right? We don't want to do word vomit on anybody,
Yeah.
because that's personal. Who wants to share their pain, right? It's vulnerable. And so we're just so, I hate to use the word repressed, but it sometimes feels that way. Yeah. Like we're a
Yeah.
little bit, we can't express ourselves in actually the way we want. And, Lance was talking about, speaking the truth, right? And the important thing about that is recognizing that my truth may not be your truth. So what I speak may or may not resonate with you, but that's up to me not to try to control that, but to have my truth for me. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Of course.
You have a different truth, and I want to allow you to be able to express your truth without anger and with that freedom and expansion.
Sure, because I believe that my truth is based on the experiences that I've had,
Right.
and of course I believe that, I think that to simplify it, that's why I say that, we're a three-part being, but we're really just we're a spirit. The Hermes Trismegistus was, we have never been born and therefore we can never die, because
Ooh,
we come
I
from
like it.
spirit and therefore that spirit can never die.
That is way above my pay grade, but I like it.
And
I never
well,
heard that.
and I'll tell you that
But
it's
yeah.
it's it's something that really touched my heart when I heard it. And of course, one of their biggest things was, through every spiritual door that you walk through, above it is two words, and those two words are know thyself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I like that, because it's something that in all the books, Debbie, that I've read, it really all says the same thing. We're actually not here to learn anything. We're just here to remember who we are. So who are we? What is this? Who are we? Who is this spirit that is now in this container that moves us around in this physical existence?
Hmm.
And how I know, I've been like how people have shared with me that the soul is so powerful and so big, and it feels so restricted in this body,
But it shouldn't.
but it shouldn't.
That is the set of what I call pictures and vibrations that we've taken on from others. And as we peel back the layers of the onion, or however you want to call it, open
Yep.
the lotus flower,
Yeah.
that as we shed all of these layers that we've taken on lifetime after lifetime for false beliefs and things that even in this lifetime where we've believed things, from the time that we're little, our parents tell us something and we believe it, we hold on to it, for forever. And it's, I differ a little bit in that I do think that we're here to learn something, or we wouldn't be in this particular incarnation. But notwithstanding what you just said, absolutely, that we're here to remember who we are while we're doing that, with our wisdom from the different lifetimes, with our path. And I think kind of bringing this back to a little of the mental health stuff is, I think, part of the challenge that people are having are, can I go really all woo woo on you?
Absolutely. You know I love it.
Okay. Can I add my YouTube channel on here? I can add myself because you gave me that link. Shall we
Yeah,
try it
you can
and
try,
see if
yes.
we can't get my
See if
folks on here too? Yeah?
sure, absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Let's see if we could do this. First I have to find, I meant to do it earlier, but I thought,
See, Debbie Tato's
receive.
Spirit Light Insight paired channels with your stream.
Yes. And so you are now, hopefully, let's check it out. So we're working a little technology here. I hope you all don't mind, but you know what? In this grand, lovely world, it's all about that. So I don't know if I'm just pulling up my channel really quick to see my channel. It says I'm live.
Indeed, it
How
is. I can see a little thing here at the top. That's super
All
great.
right. So welcome to all my folks who might be coming in, my followers, because you can do this. Magic of technology. Hi, Tammy. How are you? So I am here live with Clarity Coach Crew Mel Bellissimo. So for any of my folks who are going to pop on because they're getting notified. So I hope you don't mind. I just added, and now you'll have all kinds of extra people coming
There you
on,
go.
and
This
it's
is lovely.
all beautiful.
Lovely.
We're going to have a dang party here. But what we're
That's right.
talking about is mental health, and what I wanted to bring up and why I wanted to bring folks on my channel. So my channel, Spirit Light Insight, on YouTube. And I'd love for y'all to call me. By the way, I cannot comment because this is Mel's. Mel's got control of everything. So hi to all of my folks who are coming on. But I wanted to talk a little bit about beings, spirit beings.
Okay, let's do it. We're going metaphysical. I love it.
We're going metaphysical. I don't know if you've got other people in the queue, but do tell me and I'll shut up. Because
So far, you're good. You're good,
otherwise,
Deb. I'll let
okay.
you know.
So
What I'm waiting for. What I'm waiting for is Richard Atkinson to pop on soon. But
Okay.
no, or else let's do it.
So there's all kinds of there's spirit beings, and there are spirit beings in this world that are just like us. And what I mean by that is there are spirits that are benevolent spirits and will help us. There's angels, guides, ascended masters. They're folks that are here to help the world along. Then there's all kinds of other, let's say, entities, beings that are at, let's say, lower vibrations. Those are the ones that create addictions, things like that. And you can actually see them. And part of what I've been seeing in the world today is that people, because they're not connected with their own spirit, they're connecting with all these others. And not all are, let's say, good for this human body. They're the beings, you know, you hear people talk about, well, this voice told me to do that, right? Or how about when you're talking to a friend or something and they go off, they just start screaming and getting all crazy. And then they apologize later and say, God, I don't know what happened to me. That just wasn't me. That just didn't feel like me. I don't get it. Well, it wasn't them. We all have these transmedium abilities to channel energy through us. And part of what we are calling a mental health crisis is really a seniority of spirit crisis. That we are not senior and using our own information. We're constantly looking outside and connecting with so much outside of ourselves that we don't even know what those energies are anymore. And then on top of that, we've got energies that don't want us to see, let's say, the bigger truths, the larger truths. And so there's all kinds of energy flying about, and we're not senior to them. We're not senior to our own information. And I don't know, have you ever experienced, like, what's your thought on that, Mel?
Yeah,
Because you
well,
did all that metaphysical stuff.
right. And I think that the example that I always give is that if you're driving in the car and maybe you pull up to a red light and you go through the intersection when it turns green, and then all of a sudden there's these terrible thoughts in your head. It's almost like
Mhm.
I don't know why I started thinking about that shit, but I just started thinking these terrible,
Exactly.
terrible things.
Right. And why would I even think that?
Why would I
Right?
even exactly, exactly,
Right. Right.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, you're a healer. You know that, right? You know that. You do know that,
Of
right?
course. Yes, of
If
course.
you don't know that, I will tell you that here and now.
That's right.
But you know, anybody that's a healer, an empath, or you know, a sensitive picks up energies of others.
Yeah.
Whether that is, hi Rosie, um, whether that is Mel's 100% a healer, absolutely. So he takes on, and we take on all kinds of energy from others. We take on their pain. We take on their beings, their entities that are attached to them. We take on the pain that they're holding on to for others. Egads, you talked about it earlier, how big we are as spirit. Well, if we're not senior in that space, if we're not aware where the edge of our aura is, or the edge of our spiritual space, guess what? We're like walking through the muck and it's all like sticking.
It's the way I describe it, exactly that way. It feels like ick all over the body.
Ick all over the body. And that's when I get the call, right? Help, I need to be grounded. I need to
Yeah.
be, can you help me out? Can you just, you know, do
Yeah.
this, that, and the other thing? So, a lot of what we're seeing is that. Yeah.
What I'm curious about, Debbie, is that I love this because even when you started thinking about those lower frequency beings that talk about addiction and of course in my world we used to say that if you have an addiction it's because there's a spiritual disconnect.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And so if you're addicted to something, and we know that this is true, and I'll tell you how we know, because if you've known anybody who went through the 12 stages of AA, what they found is these people go through these 12 stages and then by the end find God. And it's
Yes.
like they talk about God, they talk about the
Yep.
spirit.
Yep.
And so a lot of people will say that this is very true, that addiction um, is nothing short of a spiritual disconnect. Now, I know that there's been some people to challenge me on that, but I think that that's great. I love the challenge, and I love being challenged because I love hearing difference of opinion. But I want to speak, Debbie, specifically about mental health in terms of, I know that you're a healer. But
Mhm.
what are some of the things that you share with your clients if they're going through a tough time after this healing? What do you impart to them?
Oh,
You know.
um, well, first of all, when I work with somebody and I'm also trying to give people tools, because part of what happens is that people have, let's say, some false ideas on how to clear this pain and how to get rid of it. And like, oh, if I'm just positive, it'll go away. Or, oh, if I'm, that's called toxic positivity. Um,
Right.
and, and, and it's very toxic. We can't just focus on something. We also have to give whatever that pain is a space so that it has room to go. And we also have to pull our energy out of it, because a lot of times what happens is we focus on it so hard that all of our energy and attention goes in there. And when we do that, we're actually giving it our power. So that's one of the things that I
I like that.
impart is, you know, look, it's like having a oh, I don't know. It's like feeding the animals at the zoo or something, right? You start focusing and you're, oh, hey, I'm over here, right? It's like calling it to you, but you really strengthen it. The thing that is the most detrimental to our own mental health, oddly, is our own power, and how much power we give those things, those energies and attentions or pictures or anxieties. And they
Yeah.
are not who we are. And again, I'm going to circle it around. What do I impart on those folks is that that's not who you are. You are not that anxiety. You are not that pain. You are experiencing it. So I never take away from it, because they're definitely having that experience.
Absolutely.
Right? But it's a matter of giving it space to be able to release it, giving it space to think of it like a garbage chute. If we start stuffing garbage down, right? And then we got our little, like, our stick, and we're pounding it down, and we're trying to get rid of all the garbage, 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 garbage. And then suddenly the chute becomes clogged. There's a couple different things. Either you can get a drill and drill through it, which is going to be a little painful. Or if you give it 1 inch more of space, it's all just going to fall down, isn't it?
It's all going to fall away. Yeah.
It's all going to fall away.
Yeah.
So sometimes we become very caught up. So that's some of what I leave people with, is that space, is what are you feeding? Where's your energy and attention? And what if you turn that energy and attention within into loving yourself exactly as you are, with all your jiggly parts, with all your things you do wrong, with all your perfection, whatever it is. What if you loved every part of you in that way, as much as you hate that other thing? Can you imagine what the world would be like?
Yeah. I have to say, I was speaking to a woman yesterday that I've known for a number of years now, and I was talking with her about some of the patterns because that what I feel about this is that at some a lot of the challenges that we face, if we don't give it the space as you say, we end up making choices or behaviors that really don't help us any further. And so I share this because part of this conversation was, you know, how many of us are looking for confidence outside of ourselves? We do
Right.
it with relationships. I'm going to be with this person. I know maybe I don't know at the time, but this person's no good for me, but they're quote unquote broken, even though we're not broken, but quote
Hmm.
unquote lost. And I get my confidence because I feel needed. And so what happens
Right.
is I
Right.
go into this relationship because I'm needed, and all of a sudden, once they don't need me, there's nothing there for me, and I don't have any more confidence. And we
And
spoke
you've
about this
healed
back.
them. Can I just say, and you've healed them, and that energy is still in your space.
Correct. Correct.
Just
Absolutely.
I just wanted to expand what you were saying. And I think some of that really is about awareness and going into it. You know, it's one thing if you go into it knowing that, wow, they need me, that feels really good. But again, it also feels good to be needed. So then you take it one step further, and how do you give that to yourself?
Right.
Right? Because what that picture says is that at some level, right, it's turning around. Does that make sense?
Of
You
course.
have to turn that around. And trust me, I'm like the queen. I have dated some people that for sure were not right for me,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and couple that I went in with eyes open, some I went in with eyes
It's
wide
close.
shut.
That's right. Exactly.
So,
Well, Debbie, I wanna thank you for dedicating some of your time in what you call the audible of your plan today.
yeah,
Um,
it was my plan.
I really am grateful. I think I lost Ricky. I hope he gets back on. But I'm really grateful that you came, because what I love about what you do is you can provide for people more than just you know what we see on the outside, sort of the outside's effects of what happens in mental illness and how this happens, but then you go deeper into the spiritual. And I
Right.
love that, because I can't tell you how many times, if you say the word spirituality around people, that it's still the, ooh, we can't talk about that.
Right.
That's not cool. We shouldn't be talking about that. That's taboo.
It's
But
woo woo.
it's woo woo. But I don't. I mean, do I care about it? I mean, I think that if there's a really great way to connect people to spirituality in a way that isn't so woo woo in terms of verbiage, but
But you're doing it. Can I just say you're doing it? The life
working on
coaches
it.
are doing it. It's
Yeah,
different verbiage. I come at it from a different place. Can I do a shameless plug?
of course.
So I've got a 6-week psychic healing foundations class coming up that addresses all of this. How do you get senior? How do you own your space without boundaries and isolation? Because that's what a lot of times people do, is they create boundaries and isolate. How do you work with spirit guides and become senior to them? And actually, I wasn't even going to, I just realized I said it earlier. But that, so yes, I don't think that link, by the way, I think I wrote it wrong. I
Did you?
don't know. I think I did. Yeah. I think I wrote it wrong, but anyway, it's spiritlightinsight.com. You can, find me on YouTube. I'm doing a live tomorrow on Mercury retrograde and how to get through the upcoming Mercury retrograde, and I'll talk about the psychic healing class. If you've got questions, I'm doing a Q&A that I'll answer on the live on psychic healing and healing in general. I know I didn't talk to you about this, so I appreciate the shameless plug. It's on my website, and you'll fix whatever my website is. I see you mapping, looking at. So I appreciate that. I didn't think to give it. I mean, this truly wasn't audible, so I so appreciate the space and what you're doing, because this is important. So whoever you've got coming on next is going to be a coach, and that coach is going to have their own terms. And I'll bet I can pick and choose with whatever you're doing, right? I bet that I can connect that to the spiritual part. You're just not using those words. Some
Yeah.
people, that's where they are.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't care where they are.
Yeah.
Get the help. Reach out to those who even if you think, oh, I can't afford it, or I can't do this, or reach out anyway. You never know what that coach or that person or that spiritual person or whatever is going to do for you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Debbie. Super grateful for you. Appreciate you being here. I look forward to connecting again.
Sooner than later, and we won't play phone tag.
There you go. Thank you, Debbie. Have an awesome,
Thank you so
day.
much.
All the
You
best
too.
to you.
Take care.
Love you lots. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, backstage, we have a man that I have a great regard for. He's not only my boxing coach, but he's a dear friend to me. And he's been on the show before. Today we're talking mental health. If you're just joining us, today we're talking mental health because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And we've had a few guests on the show today coming and sharing a little bit about whether it's a story of an experience they've had with mental health personally, or whether or not it was through someone else. And I'd love to spend the next 15 minutes of the show talking to a man who has had experiences, my friends, that most of you will never, ever experience in your life. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like for you to welcome my dear friend, my brother from a different mother, Mr. Richard Atkinson.
Hey, crew, how you doing? Hey,
how you doing?
there you
Forget
go.
about it.
I was playing with my machine because I couldn't adjust the color on it. But anyways, here I am.
There you go. How you doing, Coach?
All right, little tired. Was up all night. I went to the fights last night, and
Lee Baxter.
yeah, I went to Lee Baxter's promotion. I like going to his fights. They're kind of the kind of fights that we used to put on years ago, and it reminds me of that. So yeah, it's meeting people, shaking hands. You know what I mean? Kissing babies,
Kissing babies. That's it. Bada bing, bada boom. Of course.
So I listened to a little of your show here today.
Yes.
Not a lot of. So I didn't grab the whole show, but I know you're talking about mental health issues.
Yes.
Obviously, you're dealing with that yourself because of what happened to one of your longtime friends, and you can't make new old friends. So when you lose them, and you lose them in ways that you don't want, it hurts more. So I have 33 years of living inside of an institution whose premise was designed to alter human behavior. Lots of psychologists, lots of psychiatrists, and lots of patients around me. I also spent 20 years in halfway houses and aftercare programming, which I'm still going through now because I have 10 more years left of this experience. And that's the best way to put it, because life is an experience no matter how you look at it. So I still have to do that. So all the issues that you talk about, mental health, been there, done that, seen it, tried it. So the thing is that in the 33 years of being institutional, being in an institutional environment with people trying to alter my behavior and failing in many attempts, primarily because of the civil rights laws that protected me from revealing too much about myself, and still hiding behind a mask of duplicity and secrecy and nefarious activities. So I was diagnosed as a psychopath by one psychologist, and then many more challenged that diagnosis and said, no, he's not a psychopath, he's not a sociopath, but he's somebody different that we have to deal with in this. In dealing with Canadian human behavior, I think human behavior in general is the same no matter where you go. But we have different laws here that motivate us and propel us and move us through our transition from childhood to adulthood and on, right? So those laws is what I learned how to manipulate and play with. And that was my success, let's say, as a criminal, and also my failure as a criminal, because I pushed hard and I pushed far. But in dealing with mental illness itself, nobody, and I've been up against a lot of people dealing with some of the best at this country, pays to deal with guys like me. And at the end of the day, they really don't know what they're doing. They have a handle in some areas, specific areas, and they have years of study in that areas and years of dealing with human beings. I'll mention one name, one person, Alex Lubinoff. He was the assistant warden of Frontenac Institution, which was and still is a minimum security institution. They don't have a fence around it. They don't have guards with guns on the institution. So you can say that it's a place where if your behavior has been moderated enough so that the government feels that you're not going to hurt yourself or another human being, you could end up in that environment, which is a transitionary environment to get you to the street. Next part is a halfway house or even out on full parole on the street. So Alex Lufanoff pulled me aside one day. I was walking and he says, "Can I talk to you?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I've been doing this for 35 years, watching, teaching, doing this stuff that I do, correctional stuff, uh, trying to moderate people's behavior." He said, "You're the most dangerous person I've ever met in my life over the 30 years that I've been doing this." And I go, "Moi, me, how so? I'm surrounded by guys with life sentences, guys that have did multiple murderers, and they have transitioned to that space that I was at also. Guys that did punched a guy in a street fight and killed him. Manslaughter, guys that killed their wife. Manslaughter, murder, to first degree murders, guys that killed strangers, guys that have killed cops. I've been around those guys my entire life." So I said to him, "How can I be classified in that category when I personally don't have any violence on my record?" And he tried to explain to me that I fit in this other category. And I'm like I've been out of a lot of people. So I say Lubinhoff was a expert at what he was doing, but I don't think he nailed me. And I don't think he was an expert at what he was talking about at the time. And that's what I'm saying, that some people know, but they just don't know. They just don't know human behavior because it's so thicky, so it's easily manipulated. It's not transparent. We seem to be able to hide behind a lot of stuff, i.e., like your friend Joe, you didn't have an indication, and you're his best friend, that he had a problem. And a problem as deep as it was. You might have known on the surface he had a problem, and you might have even known a little scratching through the surface and understanding a little content of what the problem is, but you did not know what he was going through. You weren't inside of him. And oftentimes I think we are not inside of ourselves. And therefore we have lots of learning and lots of teaching to do in order to get there. So let me turn this off.
That's okay, Coach. But Coach, what I would love to ask you is that I know that you know, if anybody's going to talk on this particular subject matter, I mean, like you say, you've had all this experience with psychologists, psychiatrists, all these people who are supposed to be expert in it. And through the course of it all, Coach, if I could ask you one question, somebody who's going through a difficult time, if I called you and I said, "Coach, I'm really going through a difficult time. This is what's happened: marriage, job, lost my father, lost a dear friend." How do you put into words, or what do you impart with somebody who you care about, that with regards to mental illness?
Okay, so that's such a broad spectrum of what you just said. You touched so many areas in almost 2 sentences that it would take years to delve into that and get it right. But I've been committee chairman, that's the position of that. So I've been voted into that position for over those 30 years. And my job primarily was to sit in the committee office, organize the events of the stuff that have to go in within that city we lived in. But it was also to do what you just said. Guys would come and they would field every kind of question you could ever think of off of you, doing just what you just did now. And your advice has to be simple advice. It can't be complex advice. And it has to be predicated on what you know. You can't be guessing because you can't be playing with people's lives. So the thing is you give the most concrete advice you can give at the time and hope that something takes and resonates, and it might not. So I'll give you an example that's in my book, so I'll talk about it. Carl Hines came to me and said that, checking out, pal. He babysitted me when I was younger, so I had a certain amount of respect for him. His best friend was a guy named Ronnie Ward, now deceased. And Ronnie Ward was there, and I said, hey, Ronnie, can we do anything? Is there anything we can do to help Carl change? His checking out means he was going to kill himself that night. He said, no, man, he's adamant that he wants to do it. And here's a guy that known me my whole life. And I was in a position to help him, any kind of help he wanted. If he owed money, I could have paid it or stopped the person that, if he had a debt, I could have canceled the debt is the best way to put it. So I could have alleviated that pain. I could have probably reached out and maybe if he wasn't getting visits, get someone to come and visit him. So there's hope in that. I couldn't offer him a parole or a release or a transfer to another institution, but I could help manipulate that and all the resources that I had at the time to try to make it easier for him, to give him hope. None of that worked. He was steadfast that he was checking out. And I said this to myself as I was waiting for that to happen. Who am I to tell him not to in the environment that we're in? It's up to him to take the steps in life that he wants to take. And if this is his last step in life that he chooses to take, who am I to tell him that that's not the step he should take? So what I say for suicide, and I say that to guys, and I said it to him, suicide itself is a final solution for a temporary problem that we have to deal with. None of our problems are really that steadfast unless you have cancer or something like that and someone tells you you only have a few months to live and you say, what are my options? And they go, none. You have zero options. And I've been through that with several people, one of you know really well. Mm-hmm. And the thing is you can't tell them to hang on and to live on and to suffer on because you're greedy for their company. You have to say to yourself is I have to let them go. That's the best interest for the both of us, because who am I to say you should stay and suffer? Because we're all put on this earth, if you look at the Buddhist contents, we're all put on this earth to suffer. And the way to alleviate that suffering is just a state of mind. There's no other way to look at it. So it's the state of mind. And to create that state of mind, there's avenues you can take in religion. They offer different formulas for that avenue to take. But in reality, everything we look at through our mind. Everything we see through our mind. Everything we hear through our mind. Everything we taste through our mind. So dealing with your mind itself, helping yourself deal with your mind, also helps you deal with the minds of others. That's the advice that I'm talking about. And the better you are at it, the more success you have. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and I mean, I said this, Coach, earlier on in the show that, for me, the answer to relieving some of these mental health challenges is really getting down, from my perspective, to the basics. You're feeling shitty? Move your body. Go smash a bag. Watch how great you feel after you smash a bag.
Or in my situations, I would say to guys, get a hobby. And guys, are you kidding me? And I saw tough guys from every walk of life, big bikers, big hitmen, tough guys. I saw them sitting there knitting, crocheting, doing stuff like that, doing hobbies as simplistic as that, for that same reason. I myself, I think, maintained my sanity, contrary to what Alex Lubinoff thinks, by doing hobbies. And I've done hobbies from day one. So when I first hit Collins Bay, which is a real tough prison here in Ontario, one of the most fighting prisons, I say, in Canada, and I was only 17 years old, was, hey, Rick, man, come here, man. You're a young guy. You want to do something? And I'm like, I'm here. So what's up? He said, do you want to sew moccasins together for me? And I sell them, and I'll pay you this. And I'm like, I'm in business, man. I started sewing moccasins. So the hobby was profitable. So I'm like,
Right.
this is great. In a few weeks, I got a radio and I got stuff that I would have took me longer to get, stuff that I could buy within the institution. And I've done hobbies ever since. And I run a pottery shop for kids now, which is an extension of that. It's a hobby that I enjoy doing, and now I'm teaching it to others, and they're there in the community that I'm from is where I have that pottery shop. So the kids in my community are benefiting from my most negative time in my life. That was the negative time, we'll say, or the most detrimental to my health era was in that period. And getting into pottery saved me. So just like you said, hitting the heavy bag, for me, it's training someone does that for me.
Yeah.
Not necessary for me to hit the heavy bag, because I've been in rooms for months on end that were just four square walls. There is no heavy bag to hit. You can punch the walls, and there's no towels or there's nothing you could wrap around your hands. So there's nothing to hit the wall with except your bare hands. But as martial arts experts that you and I are, we find the bag in our mind,
Yeah.
and we still use it with the same benefits we would get without it. Right?
I mean, Coach, I have to, if it's okay, I'd love to share a story that you would tell me. I mean, just to provide some perspective of you talking about the mind, that everything that we experience goes through the mind or is the mind. I remember you sharing me two things. One of your famous sayings was, when you're incarcerated and you have to do time, here's the way it works: either you do the time or the time does you. That was one line that I'll never forget. The second was a story of that exact thing. You're in four walls, there is no heavy bag, but you said something to me that gave me goosebumps, Coach. You know what it was? That you would tell your cellmate, hey, listen, I'm going for a walk. And I, in my brain, I'm going, oh, cool. He left his cell and he went for a walk. And then you tell me, no, no, no. We didn't leave any cell. I would walk 3 feet one way, turn around 3 feet the other, but you would tell your cellmate, please don't disturb me because I'm going to be at the park.
That's right.
Bro,
Yep.
that gave me goosebumps, bro.
Yep.
Because what it represents to me is how powerful we can be in if we can be the ones in control of our mind.
That's right, exactly. And not let anyone bring you to a space that you don't want to be. In other words, had the individual, and it's happened several times, turned his TV up too loud. Hey man, TV, the park I walk in doesn't have a TV. Can you put your earphones in? Or is doing something. Leathercraft guys are banging that hammer on the leathercraft and all that. Sounds like woodpeckers, chip, 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 going off all the time. So you have to come to a consensus. Take the cell partner out of the equation, and then that consensus you have to come to, and the discipline you have to initiate is just you. It's in your mind. So the thing is, I've talked to people that said I was in solitary for a long time, and I went crazy, and I said, because you didn't walk enough, man. You just sat there, stared at the wall, and the wall stared at you. The time did you.
Right.
You didn't get up to do your time. So a lot of times in those environments, not to detract from anything, but those environments, penal environments, are what they are, and anger gets you through that when you don't know how to walk in the park. Smashing what you can smash, cutting what you can cut, tearing what you can tear. I remember a guy said, Rick, I'm going to cut my head off. And I'm like, you got a weapon, man? Like, he had a razor blade. Yeah, we're in solitary. Yeah. And I said, well, man, sorry for hearing that, but work out. And he went and cut his throat as deep as you can cut from ear to ear. Literally tried to cut his head off, just like he said. Years later, because he lived, but years later I met him. He still had that big railroad scar here. And I would joke with him because now he's over that time and that era. And I would say, I don't want to say his name, but I would say, hey, man, how's your head hanging? Well, come on, man. That was way back then. I'm a different person now.
Oh my God.
And we can joke about that dark space. Now.
Which brings me to the point, Coach, of why I would want to, on a show like this that deals with mental health, bring on someone like you, because you have seen things and experienced things. As I said before I brought you on, that no one will ever, ever, ever experienced the things that you've seen.
Yeah, everybody's, no matter, I was in jail with my brother, double bunked with him, in solitary confinement with him, and yet his experience would be different than my experiences.
Yeah, yeah,
And we
absolutely.
have the same basic upbringing. We have the same basic, we'll say, environmental impact, but yet he would have experienced time and the transition through life different than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
See, but coach, like it's true. What I love about your honesty too is that I want you to think about this for a moment. Joe takes his own life, and I know that there's nothing that, although it did cross my mind, coach, is there something that I could have done? Could I have said something? Could I have been in touch with him more to say something that would have resonated with him?
wait. Of course, coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah.
Suicide, a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And I'll just not to divulge in his case at all. I don't want to go
Right.
in that direction because no use talking about it. But uh, Johnny Cochran would have called him, would have made a difference. You
Okay.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Offering that or providing that phone call could have made a difference.
Yeah.
But just like Carl Hines, might have not made a difference, man. And all the stuff that you offer to help might not been enough to overcome that desire to get out of that situation immediately.
Yeah.
Nothing you could do about that. So there's no use going to the shoulda, coulda, woulda. There's no use you going there. It has no benefit to him for you to be there, and it has no benefit to his legacy to be there.
Yeah.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda, because you're only guessing.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that because, again, I just, there was a woman who came on originally, Coach Marie Bodine, who is one of these Wim Hof certified breathing ice bath kind of trained instructor that just really said that people who are struggling with mental illness don't have to do it alone, that please reach out, please call somebody, call one of these hotlines that exist,
you talk
call a
about
friend,
you talk about the person
the person.
themselves.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the part of it, man. Well, you may know because Chunga's family is the best
yeah,
way to put it.
yeah,
Okay, so he follows me to resolve an institutional problem after 11 o'clock. After 11 o'clock in Canada, every single prisoner is locked up. That's how Canada works, right across the whole country. They do a national count, and everybody has to be cleared off the national count before there's movement. So he came with me to resolve an issue that was past the 11 o'clock count. We resolved the issue. There's guys that just didn't want to go lock up, and they were high and rambunctious, the best way to put it. So I talked to them, and then they went into their cells to lock up, resolving that issue. So this individual says to me, who helped me do that? He said to me, "Can I borrow your TV?" I, at the time, had the only color TV in Ontario in a federal institution. It was Millhaven. I was the first guy to get it as a test TV to see if we wanted to buy them for the rest of the population. He took that TV to his cell, and the next morning, people that we know, I've talked about several times about them, but I never mentioned this, came to me and said this individual had killed himself, and they're going to get his TV. They're going to grab the TV to give it back to me because it causes paperwork and a political stink for him to have that. So they went and took the TV, and he took himself out that night. And I was the last guy to be with him. I walked him, because I carried that TV, to his cell. I'll see you in the morning. I'll get my TV back in the morning. And he's like, yeah. And he understands the politics of that TV. Yeah, man. First thing in the morning, I'll give it to you. And that night, he killed himself. How could that have been predicted by anybody? Those demons were in him.
correct.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I appreciate that, Coach. I mean, I just think that what's important, at least in my heart, what I feel is important to share is, even if we know the truth, and you speak in a level of truth that most people maybe can't even handle, maybe that can't even really comprehend. Because we had a gentleman, Lance, who suffers from PTSD from being in the military and getting injured and growing up in a dysfunctional family, but he talks about speaking truths, and you're the kind of guy that speaks a truth that sometimes people don't want to hear because it really is the truth. But again, we have to look at mental health as something that is and can be fixed and can is fixable.
Yeah, it is. There's the oldest treatment of mental health issues is within that Buddhist religious concept. It goes back to that time of what 3,000 years now, 2,500 years, anyways.
Yeah.
Dealing with the mind and the stuff. So there is. I'm not advocating that that's the route you should take. It's just a template that's been around for 2,500 years, dealing with these issues from a societal point of view. And how do you live in society and at the same time be peaceful and harmonious amongst your neighbors and thrive? That's what it's all about. And expand your genetic seed to your family gets bigger, stronger, richer through time, which is evolution, which is what we're all about. So in this evolutionary process, there's been now for 2,500 years a template people can use. Lots of people do use it. Lots of people meditate. Lots of people ground themselves to the earth in the Aboriginal native religions around the world. That's the premise of those religions. Hug the ground, man. Feel the earth. Feel that energy from it. And the whole thing is everything dies. Everything on this earth will die. Everything in the universe will disappear and go away. Everything has. 90% of all life on earth has went extinct. And we're just part of that one. We're part of that small percentage that still exists. We may not exist next year. A disease could come like COVID times 10 and wipe us out. We don't know that. So we have to live in the moment. And that's the key, not live in the past. Can't predict the future. So if we're not living in the moment, if we go 1 second into the past, we're wasting our time. If we go 1 second into the future, we're only gambling. So we just live now. And when you're in those institutional environments, you may hope for freedom. So I've been in positions where freedom wasn't part of my psychology. I was told you will never be released. You have the biggest sentence we've ever given someone for a non-violent offense. Keep that in mind. And because you have the biggest sentence for a non-violent offense, all those people that have murdered people, you will see them go, but you won't. And I did. I seen guys doing life 10, come with me into jail, and then leave. And I didn't. So I had to fight for my freedom. So in that environment there, I had to come to the grips that I may never be free. And I had young children too. I mean, I could touch them, hold them at trailer visits. I could see them in the institution periodically, but I'll never drive down the street with them, kind of thing. So that's what you have to deal with. So deal with it while you're on Earth, and you cannot leave the planet. The planet becomes your prison. On this prison planet are some dark places that are like solitary confinement you may find yourself in, even though you're not technically in an institution. You're not free, and you've put yourself in solitary confinement. Free your ass, your mind will follow. It's as simple as that. Or vice versa, rather. Free your mind, your ass will follow.
That's right.
Wait for that screw up.
That's right.
I'm
Well,
looking in the mirror too much.
I'll tell you this, Coach, that I'm really grateful for that and grateful for what you said. In fact, it reminds me of your thing about the past and don't spend a moment in the past and a moment in the future. My favorite quote is by the Dalai Lama that says, the Dalai Lama, when asked what surprised him most about humanity, answered man, because he sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he's never going to die and then dies having never really lived.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's what that reminds me of.
Or a guy in my position, I saw guys live their lives out in an institution, and during that period, done nothing except existed. and I seen other guys, we'll use as comparison, do everything they could to enlighten the lives of the people around them, even though they're in that position. And we're always busy doing little things, something, coming up with ideas, never stopping to make everybody, including themselves, better, or from a mental health service, healthier.
And
Mentally.
even going as far as becoming an award-winning producer on the first ever prison television show,
Yeah,
which you were there.
I'm the only guy in the world. This is 7 billion people that's happened to because of circumstances. And part of it is that I never stopped trying to help them. That show wasn't about me. The show was about, it was bringing inside out in the inside, outside in, offsetting the true cost of our justice system, both financial and in human terms. I mentioned both the financial and then the human terms. What we're talking about now are that. It's the human terms we're talking about right now, because we're not talking about financial or business.
Right.
It's the same thing. So it doesn't matter the environment I'm still in prison. There's no way I could think that I'm not. I'm sitting here in a condo in downtown Toronto, but I'm still in a prison and I can't extricate myself from that. I can't get away from it. The law keeps me here. I could avoid the law to try to get from it, which is just yet another prison. The earth becomes my prison nonetheless.
Yeah.
No matter what I do to try to mitigate the position I'm in, I'm not ever going to leave this prison. I'm not the one that's going to be put on a spaceship and enjoy the first condo on the moon. That's not going to happen.
That's right.
So knowing that, I have to make good of the time that I have left here on this planet, no matter how long that time is. That's the tomorrow that I'm thinking about. But I'm not jumping up and down saying this and that and this and that, because I don't know.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that I'm talking to you. It's middle of the afternoon, and tomorrow's another day that I'm going to take a piece of clay, mold it into something, fry it in the oven, and admire what I did, or throw it out and start again. That's it.
Amazing, Coach.
Yeah.
You're an amazing man, and I never tell you this enough, but I really am honored to call you a friend. You really are that guy for me. You know, I when we were together last week, I said this to Mikey B. I said, I really love having Ricky come out with us, and you know what? I think he has a good time with us. You know?
Yeah, I don't mind. Hey, listen, man, I don't do anything I don't like to do, because
Yeah.
I've been forced to do so much throughout the years that I didn't want to do. In other words, in those insecure environments, I don't do anything I don't want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't mind hanging out with you guys, and I say that publicly because you're not a bad bunch of guys, man. You're different than the guys I grew up with and hung with.
Yeah.
Not so much different, because I hung with Italian guys when I was younger too, and we'd go to their house and manja and do that kind of stuff.
That's right.
So I'm used to that. You remind me of the guys from the old neighborhood. That's what you do. You remind me of all the old guys I used to hang with. You look like them, you dress like them, you sound like them.
With the same hat.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. And that's the part of being in an environment. In Buddhism, they call it the Sangha, as part of that religious thing. So that this is my Sangha, and I'm good with it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I gotta tell you, man, it's always a pleasure. In fact, the only thing is that I need a weekend of Ricky. I need not just like a couple of hours. I need like a weekend of hanging out with Ricky and exchanging some stories and looking to you for advice and
Well, my only advice I can give you now is we had a long, hard winter, compounded by the negative umbrella of COVID. That umbrella is somewhat lifted a lot, but you have an opportunity geographically where you're at to go in the woods, man, and breathe and touch, hug trees, feel that energy, listen to them talk to you, touch the rocks, touch the earth, feel the vibration. Everything's connected. Everything goes back. It depends what theories you believe, but everything goes with, if you believe in the Big Bang Theory, everything that we know is connected to that pea-sized energy that exploded into what all this is. So go enjoy it, man.
And just so that you know, Coach, that our dear friend Josh, who you helped with a right hand at Vinny's gym, says moon condos are overrated.
Which condos?
The ones on the moon condos.
Well, no, man, I'm going to try for a weekend anyways, right?
That's right. They're doing an Airbnb on the moon.
They got to be quiet.
That's right. They gotta be. They gotta be real quiet. Well, thank you, Coach.
Yeah,
Thank you, for
no
Coach, for
problem.
being here. It's always a pleasure. I hope you'll get a chance to come to Ottawa and see the tulips as they start to grow.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for what it is people don't understand my predicament, but I've been in this situation for so long at the level I'm on. I'm in a museum, for frig's sakes. I mean, when you're in museums, police museums, I mean, you're at a different level than most people. So I understand the restrictions placed upon me and the why that they're there. I understand all that, the psychology behind it. I understand that. But the thing is I used to like driving in the country on a whim, and I can't do that anymore. So now I have to save my whims for to maximize that effect. So I wanted to come up when I could see greenery whenever that's happening. It's starting to happen now, right?
So, Coach, the Tulip Festival in Ottawa starts Friday, May 13th, and ends on Monday, May 23rd.
Tulips are a little scary because I read a story about the fanaticism behind the tulip cult, and
Yeah.
people were selling tulips for houses at one time. Prize tulips in Amsterdam were going for the price of a house.
Yeah.
People were literally selling their houses for a tulip because they were it was a manufactured belief that they had some semblance of something special.
Crazy.
That was
Well,
it.
whatever it is, you're going to come and see, Coach.
Anyways, I'll come. I don't tulips don't entice me, but something else will. Maybe we can go pick some tulips on Parliament buildings.
At
They
the
got
Parliament,
lots out
exactly.
front. We'll
Yeah.
just go pick them. And those are we paid for them. There are tulips.
That's right. We paid the taxes for them. They're ours. Right on, man.
All right. Talk to you later.
Thank you, Coach. Love you, brother. All the
Okay,
best.
cool.
Well, my friends, what can I say? What an absolutely fabulous, fabulous episode today. Thank you to Josh. I hope you travel safe, my friend. Thank you for being here. I know that you were going through customs. Again, I want to wish Franny the happiest of birthdays. Whenever I see you come on, you always put a smile on my face. So happy birthday, sweetheart. I hope you have an awesome, awesome day and an even awesomer weekend with your family and with your friends. Special shout out to Sandra Mio, of course, who I love dearly. I know you were busy today in a meeting, but thank you for joining us. Thank you to Scott Brown for joining us and everyone who took the time to be with us. To our guest today, Marie Bodine, Lance Janik, Deborah Tatel, and Mr. Richard Atkinson. Thank you to all who came. And please share this. Share this video. Share this. Take a clip of it and share it to somebody who you know who could benefit from hearing some of the stories today. Indeed, Josh, a Coffee and Biscotti All-Star Edition. My friends, we're hoping to get this very, very beautiful woman, Luciana, here next week with us on the show. She was supposed to be this week, but had to cancel, which is why I dedicated this show to mental health. So I hope to see you all next week here on the Coffee and Biscotti Show, live every Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Thank you again for everyone and to everyone who participated and who was in the chat. I love you all. Thank you for being here. I love doing this. Guys, this provides me zero money, but I can't tell you how much I love doing this and how much I love being here with all of you. Josh, are you going to rate us somewhere today, my friend? Where are we going today? Again, this show was dedicated to my dear friend in the heavens, Joe Fernicola. You will be missed, my brother. Your legacy lives on, and you will forever be in my heart. Love you, Joe. We're headed to see DJ Susan Estera, I believe in New York City or in the U.S. somewhere. So stick around as we go visit DJ Susan Estera. My friends, from my heart to yours, have an awesome Friday and an even better weekend. Look forward to seeing you next week on the Coffee and Biscotti Show. Love you all. This is Crew Mel saying, I'm out of here. Peace.